Ni state of the nation, tuko na BENJI NDOLO hapa, so we're going to have a conversation today on the state of the nation. Jamaa alikuwa America pale, sijui kama alikuja mwenyewe ama alipandishwa kwa gari.
Like my friend Levi nilikuja mwenyewe. By the way, it is customer service week this week.
Yes.
So my bank gave me a card yesterday.
Oh, they give you a card?
Yeah.
To bring it to us or?
No, just a card to appreciate me, etc. So nikawambia, you know, as a bank you ought to be ashamed. You don't give a card that is empty.
Yeah.
You give a card with something hapo katikati.
Oh, matuletea nini? You need to take care of us.
To be honest, mimi si mkono gam sana. So kuna vile nitawacha kakitu on my way out. Ka breakfast.
Hallelujah. So Mungu ni mwema. Haya, leo ni Tuesday, state of the nation. We need more BENJIs. Unajua is another. Nimesikia ni kijana deep state pia. Nasikia mahali alitoka, ni mahali kijana yetu ankoa ametoka. Basi atatuambia kama yeye pia ni clan namba ngapi pale Panama. Haya. State of the nation edition, the 5th of October 2021. As usual, I request that when you please like. When you like, we get to know that you're watching us. And not like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to wide the broadcast. This is a tackle and it begins now. Lakini kama kawaida, lazima tuende mbele za Mungu tumuongeleshe kidogo. Alafu basi, tukirudi na kuja kuwapa salamu zenu. Mighty Father, we come before you this morning. Worshiping Lord for your name. Thank you for another opportunity to be alive. We thank you for this program. We thank you for this conversation that we are about to have. May it edify the fabric of this country. For we pray, trusting and believing. Amen.
Amen.
Haya. Ana Mungu alita continue. A morning team tackle tuning in from Convent United Kingdom. Good to be part of this morning State of the Nation edition. Good to see you, my brother. Beri Lemondi Washira. Na wewe wacha stop missing. Na kuna biashara yangu uko naye bana. Tayari ngoko umeshanipea check tayari. Anasema morning GB, good morning to you. Beryl anasema morning tacklers. Good and morning Beryl. I hope you're doing well. Sameke Junior, good morning. Bito, good morning. Silas Umakwa, good morning. Sumokwa, good morning. Aida Bunai, jambo madam, anasema good morning from Kilimani, waiting for the show. Asante sana. Eda, wewe ni clan nambari ngapi? Aya, David Kamau, good morning GB, the only offshore account niko nayo ni salams from diaspora. Have a blessed day and my fellow tacklers. Good to see you, my brother David Kamau. Jana, karibu wafunge hizo accounts zetu. You know the only accounts that we can have that are offshore are Facebook accounts, Twitter accounts, Instagram, na gani ingine sikia unaitwa Telegram. Haya, those are the only offshore accounts we can afford. Lakini kuna wangwana walijaribu kufunga jana. Sijui kama ni kina BENJI wenye wako na account pale Panama ama ni kina nani. Suddenly our accounts were falling. The only offshore accounts we can afford, bwana. Sina offshore account nyingine apart from me Facebook ambayo ameniwekea Bluetooth juzi.
It shows you how powerful this whole internet technology thing is. Because you know, anytime you see such downtimes and what have you, hacking is a real possibility. And where there's hacking that way, it means they can also take down your bank account or take out whatever is in those accounts. So it's a big phenomenon. Oh, wanatoanga all the time. Hata unajua. And more than that, you know, you can manipulate so many things.
So there's someone who was trying to run away with our, what now?
Anything is possible.
Juu Facebook yako ina pesa ndani.
Anything is possible, but labda crypto yako iko na pesa na Bitcoin and what have you.
Mimi sifanyangi hizo karabati bana. Mimi nataka pesa yenye naona hapa. Hii story ya kwambia tupeleka pesa America alafu itarudi ikiwa mingi.
Wewe ni mtu wa kuuza ng'ombe. I do some forex stuff.
You do forex stuff.
I do a bit of trading. I'm learning also.
Hey, the Panama guys.
Okay. No.
You're the one who is moving money.
No, and also for me again, mimi ni mtu I'm pro Wanjiko always.
Pro Wanjiko.
Yeah, because the problem again with the grand corruption, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, Gerald, it deepens poverty.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so the story of Africa has been one of, after independence, the oppressor just changed color.
Now we have a black one.
Exactly.
The Lord is good.
And so people have gotten poorer and poorer, while a few have gotten wealthier and wealthier and astronomically wealthy. It's not right.
Mungu mwema, tusameane. Jack Limo, morning Mr. Bitok, ni Jackson Limo kutoka Suswa Narok. Tuko ndani kama kawaida. Asante sana watu wa Suswa Narok, salimia wangwana wa Narok pale. Bado mimi nasema sawa mkubwa, give me a call. I'll give you a call. I'll call you after this. I saw Boss Burge, good morning brother, good morning to you sir. Honorable Mbogo wa Shiko, good morning, watching from Dubai. Asante sana watu wa Dubai. Mungu alita continue morning team tackle tuning in from Convent United Kingdom. I could be part of this morning State of the Nation edition. Cyrus Limo, good morning family, good morning to you my brother. Arabli Mosin, Elias Lagat, good morning Bito, good morning. morning to you, sir. Keep quiet, Willie. Morning, boss. Morning. Kipendi Ganet Junior. Good morning, Team Tackle. Live in Kisumu County. Good morning, brother. Good morning to you, my brother. Marvin Wamukoka. Morning to class falling from Nairobi. Bet Gideon eti customer nunu. Eti customer nunu. Good morning, bro. Go to Clan Benji. Hata tutafuta pesa sasa. Tafuta utongolo bwana. Nikubaya huku nje. Mbui Mwangi. Tuned in from Void Rotitic. Sasa watching from Nandi. Asante sana ndugu yangu. Abeda Mondi Washia sama falling from Kisumu City. Glad to be tuned in. Asante sana Kipchichir Peter watching from JKIA and through to Kampala, Uganda. Asante Simiyu. Simiyu Otunga from Meru. Good morning. Good morning. Agutwa called Joshua. Morning GB Wing from Berlin. Asante sana. Thank you the guys from Berlin, Germany. Balozi. Good morning. Bitalk watching live from Eldoret. Robert Ngetich. Yeah, Bungoma. Big up guys. Good morning to you all the guys from Bungoma. Kwe Jonas Arabwili. Good morning. Loud and clear from Eldoret. Jonas. Rob Kipto. Good morning. Bitalk. Good morning. We are glad we are back here. Asante sana ndugu yangu. Karibu tena. Joel K. Emmanuel. Morning Jira Bitocha Mgeti Mugeni. Asante Geoffrey Masha. Kasarani tuko ndani. Karoki wa Masi niko ndani, my brother. Good to see you Karoki wa Masi. Mosi Tonish morning Bitoka year number 13173 is taken. Tafuta nyingine ni kubaya, manamba zimeenda. Mungai Poro. Good to see you morning Sandani kama kawa. Asante sana ndugu yangu Julie Bungei. Julius Bungei tuned in from Elgeyo Marakwet County from down the Valley. Good to see you. Maswai Phil. Good morning bro. Good work you are doing. Thank you so much my brother. Kiprop Gilberto. Good morning. Niko tuned in. Mosi Tonish. Maureen from Sydney. Good to see you Maureen from Sydney, Australia. All the guys from the London and Australia. It's a pleasure to have you. Kama kawaida tuna masokoni kwanza tulipe bills ndio tupate pesa ya kupeleka Panama. Haya, na masokoni kidogo tulipe ushuru. Unajua huku nje ni kubaya. Kama una pesa naitwa terrible. Haya. Basi Maridadi Motors inakupa nafasi ya kuweza kuagiza gari kwa bei nafuu zaidi. You can import directly with Maridadi Motors and you get to save up to 300,000 Kenyan shillings. 300,000 Kenyan shillings. You don't get such a deal anywhere else. Maridadi Motors gives you an opportunity to import directly and you get to save up to 300,000 Kenyan shillings when you import directly. Maridadi Motors. Another opportunity as well is for you to invest in Maridadi Motors, where you get to invest your money and you earn up to 15% returns per annum on the money that you put in. Ukiweka biashara 1 million unapata 150,000. I believe that is 15%. Na kama ningetoa ile ambayo iko Panama 3.5 billion niweke hapo Maridadi Motors, napata sijui ngapi? 15%. Nifanyeni hesabu 15% ya 3.5 billion. Anyway, mambo hivyo namna hiyo. Kwa hivyo Maridadi Motors as well inakupa nafasi ya kuweza kuweka akiba kwa njia mbili. If you are saving for a unit, you want to buy a car, you can save 50% of the value of the car, na uweza kupata gari yako unaanza kuilipia pole pole mdogo. Na pia if you also investing in the sacco as a matter of saving, you want to save as an investment. Kama pesa unataka kuweka pale, unaweka pesa akiba yako, alafu unaweza kupata pia 15% kwa mwaka kwa faida, 15% kwa zile pesa ambazo utaziweka kwenye Maridadi Moto Sacco. Pia import to sell model inakupa nafasi ya kuweza kuinvest pesa yako. Wana import gari kwa jina yako, wanauza kwa niaba yako, alafu pia unaweza kupata faida yako safi zaidi. That is Maridadi Motors, Maridadi Driving Academy as well. Ni mahali ambapo unakuwa driver maridadi zaidi. You become the best driver in town. They say good drivers don't happen by accident. You have to train to be a good driver. Alafu pia kama unajenga ukifika mahali kama Benji amefika hapo nataka kujenga mansionette pale Karen. Nimeona umesema tena Karen imekuwa slums. Hey, Allah. Anyway, if you are building, you can make your house very beautiful, and I always tell you this, that your roof is your house's legacy. Kitu ya kwanza ambayo mtu anaweza kuona akiona nyumba yako ni paa. If you are building, you have to make sure that you invest in your roof. So the only Rexer Roofing can give you the best roofing solutions, that is quality roofing shingles, stone coated tiles, na pia inakupa nafasi ya kuweza kuharvest maji kwa njia safi zaidi, na maji safi using UPVC water harvesting gutters. Also, if you are building or if you are doing a flat roof, you can do your waterproofing using waterproofing materials from Rexer Roofing, that is waterproofing membrane and waterproofing liquid, all coming from Rexer Roofing. Rexer Roofing roofs your world. Go to www.rexerroofing.com ama wapigie simu kwa nambari ambayo iko pale kwenye screen. Nambari utaiona pale kwenye screen, haraka upesi uweze kupiga order yako ya roofing quality roofing shingles, stone coated tiles, UPVC water harvesting gutters na waterproofing solutions. Why Rexer Roofing? I can guarantee you this. I don't know where you'll be in 50 years, but I can guarantee you that your roof will still be there with you. 50 years down the line, your roof will still be here with you, looking fresh and clean. So that is, you make sure that you get your roofing solutions and roofing products from Rexer Roofing. Rexer Roofing roofs your world. 0704646664 wapigie simu, alafu basi wanaweza kuwa wanachangamkia haraka upesi sana. Haya, turudi kwenye kazi. Mbio Benji.
Yes sir.
So Mungu ni mwema
kabisa.
You are clear number what?
Hapana, mimi siko kwa vitu kama hizo. Mimi tu ni mtu wa mashinani. Hapa na pale, and I don't believe in offshore stashing, you know, of crazy accounts. That's not to say that I've never had an account abroad. Of course I've had several. But just for regular purposes, biashara ndogo ndogo, mshahara and what have you. But hii mambo ya hii tamaa na queue ya Pelican Briefs, ya Pandora Papers, kufungua nini, shell companies that are, shrouded in mystery and secrecy, that it's not clear what business they do, and always interconnected with senior government officials and family members of presidents, prime ministers, etc. Terrible. Looks so bad. And is really so bad. Because at the end of the day, money is important, but it's all vanity. Yeah, money is very important, but you must never lose sight of the bigger picture, and that's what we've done as a country. After being so, driven to greed and prone to greed, practicing corrupt politics of handouts, of corruption, of buying politicians, of hand checks and what have you. So you find that you are just in you're in a bottomless pit, never ending, where you get in deeper and deeper and deeper, and your name features in everything, scrupulous and unscrupulous. NYS, you've seen the number of scandals, especially under Jubilee. It's actually unbelievable. I didn't think, Bitok, that after Kibaki declared war on corruption as a main campaign theme 2 decades ago, that this would continue to be an issue. And so this is one area where President Uhuru needlessly has struggled. It didn't have to be this way. It didn't have to be this way. And the economy is broken. So it is more than just a client number. It's more than memes. It's more than jokes. It is disastrous consequences of greed and bad governance and poor leadership. It also says a lot that you can see Raila is very careful with anything he says or doesn't say. Because he is also just on his knees begging for the seat to do the same.
Lakini Uhuru alikuja akatuambia kwamba atapigana na ufisadi. He said that was going to be his legacy. Do you think he has lived up to it?
Of course he hasn't. I think he had an agenda for it, and I think powerful forces within his own family then kind of took over. Again, it's sad because, he's the son of a president. He's a president himself. His mom has been a first lady. She's been the wife of a president and the mother of a president. Under no circumstance should their family be named in anything crooked. Okay. In an ideal world, but they'll say that we don't live in an ideal world. Too many scandals, too many problems. Healthcare is still a problem in this country. There is KEMSA. There is, slums, NYS programs, allocations of billions of money that then do not cascade to the ground, such that, as former CSI Guru said, even a toilet in Kibra is an issue. Kibra is right around where we are now. And you must see this Bitok in the context of the national debt. That we have borrowed money and that money has been looted. And that money, it's on us, taxpayers, you and I, to pay this money back. Yeah. It doesn't get worse than that. So that the debt was, I think, 1.7 trillion. And now it's going to 12 trillion. For what? You've got a few big ticket items, SGR, that's not making money. Highways, quite a bit of tarmac. I give the government that. But at what cost? Yeah. So you've got to be serious about delivery. I know we're very cynical. I know a lot of people, both locally and internationally, feel that Africans deserve less. That somehow we are not ripe for democracy. Okay. That if you are a good and genuine leader, then you are silly. If you tear gas and oppress people and jail them without detention, without trial, if you have corrupt courts and all of that, that is third world, and that is our African push. A lot of people don't see that there's any big deal about that. That's why you see there's not much outrage about the situation in South Sudan, for example. If that situation was in France, then that would be a big news story. Yeah, it would be a big deal. Okay. So for us, it's not, if your leader loots and buys buildings in London and all of that, What's the big deal? Tony Blair is a consultant here in Kenya as we speak. He's also named in this. So that says a lot. But you see, that's what has to change. It's what has to change because Africa has a lot of potential. It just needs a few great minds and good organization. It also says a lot that people like Nelson Mandela are not in this kind of lists ever. People like Mwai Kibaki, even the Kibaki family, you don't see. There are certain restraints, very natural restraints that President Kibaki, the third president, had absolutely on himself. Not that he's a poor man, but there are just certain restraints. Kibaki would not go into a government house, live in the government house, and just refuse to move from the government house. There are just certain restraints that he had. And that's the kind of thinking that is going to elevate our situation. If we don't do that, then you get into this cycle, just like what happens with violence. If you look at the Middle East, the attacks, the responses, the revenge, the counter-attacks and what have you, where you then have a next president that comes to even the score, to also make money like so-and-so, to also join the billionaires league and what have you. And so it's an endless, vicious cycle of grand poverty for the majority. It becomes then tyranny, economic tyranny of the minority against the majority.
But again, what does this, what does it tell you about the foundation of this country? Because look at it this way. Yesterday, the president responded and he's saying that he can explain the source of his wealth, that he's a businessman, that he runs business in multi-billion, that amount in multi-billion in value. But the question is, in a country where the economy is collapsing, where international companies are closing shop, they are getting out of the country, doesn't mean that there's one businessman in this country that knows how to do business so well that these companies are never making losses and is making profits in billions in an economy that is suffering.
I found out last week that Garden City, which is a mall I had never visited until just recently, very well designed, and the investors, I believe, are from South Africa. They are in the process of closing. Yes. So many companies have closed. So many shops, so many businesses have gone down. It is really just unbelievable because, that has a knock-on effect, a direct effect on jobs. Jobs is such a crisis in this country. And so it begs the question, if you are such a big businessman, should you even be a state officer? Should you be a public officer? Should you be a president? Should you be a cabinet secretary? Conflict of interest is real. And some things are just very obvious. I think that personally...
And why isn't the country doing as well as the businesses?
I think...
Because the same guy...
It's a good question.
Same guy, successful businesses, but a failing government.
He's not the one that runs a family business. A family businesses are huge. No. I think it's a matter of competencies. The family enterprise is huge, has an organization, has its own corporate governance structure. I'm not really sure where he sits on that. I know his brother probably sits atop of that. But I think that Uhuru as a person, he's a likable guy. The reason he wants to address this when he comes back is because he's an excellent communicator. But he's not been able to assert his authority as commander-in-chief and say, look, this is where I want to take the country. If it is, for example, issues against corruption, and I will not tolerate. Outside of the rhetoric, outside of of the bluster, he's angry, he said this and that. Outside of that, there's very little traction on the issue of accountability, on the issue of zero tolerance. So it's not zero tolerance. It's a semblance of intolerance, but it is not zero tolerance. It is even a coddling of corruption while pointing fingers at others as corrupt. And the fingers, many of them are pointing at yourself. And so this has been a disastrous, performance. And as a young president, he could have done, I honestly believe and say all the time, President Uhuru could have done 10 times better. And so the economy was already in the doldrums, and COVID just came to finish us. If you go mashinani, as I'm sure you do, money is not circulating. I mean, because how can it? Our sectors are all down. If you look at pyrethrum, if you look at coffee, if you look at the tonnage for coffee in the last 30, 40 years, it is now almost at an all-time low. Yes, there's been a bit of improvement in pricing, but the yields are at an all-time low. If we are somewhere at 16,000 tons a year now, while we were at 184,000 tons those years, and this is as result of poor pricing, presence of cartels in the value chain. The same coffee that sells at Starbucks, really right from Kiambu, for 370 shillings a cup, is the same coffee that they're paying the farmer 24 shillings. So the farmer who does all the work, the inputs, the tilling, the irrigation, and what have you, is just walking around jobless in Kiambu in slippers, unable to pay school fees for his kids. And that's just one sector. So that's coffee. You have tea. You have issues in the milk industry. Again, that industry dominated by the president's family. I talked of pyrethrum, sisal, sugar. So again, all these sectors have collapsed, and with them, lots and lots and lots of jobs. You don't really hear someone like Honorable Raila espousing a very coherent policy on what he could do to return these factories and industries and, in essence, create jobs. They kind of all gave up on this, and now what we are left with is a discussion around, communities, around seats for big people, that if we can have seats where everybody sits at the table, we can have peace. This was the premise around which BBI was designed. It was flawed from the beginning. It was selfish. It was shallow. It was wrong. And using that to even loot money, in a very opaque fashion, where it's not clear where the money is coming from. The budgets are not, well defined. There's no accountability. Who's asking questions? There was even a tussle over the funds between PS Kibicho in OP and these other guys saying, we want the money to do this and that. You remember this thing called Embrace that was always chartering flights all over the place. The women thing led by Gladys Wanga. All of this stuff is really the height of poor governance structures. And this has happened under President Uhuru. And so, again, a track record of joblessness, of hopelessness. I dare your researchers to verify this fact, that this year and the last calendar year, since 2020, suicides are at an all-time high in Kenya. Especially the youth.
People are committing suicide.
And up to 80% are 40 and below. Just imagine, up to 80% of Kenyans are 40 years and below. I believe up to about 65% are under 30. The country is full of all this vigorous energy and all this disillusionment and confusion. And in the absence of good structures for governance, Bitok, we are left now with misusing youth, mobilizing youth to throw stones, to fight, or to protect, in quotes, their communities. So we still have Northeastern people saying, Kiti ya Duale ni kiti yetu. You still have bishops in Machakos saying, tuko na kijana yetu anaitisha. So Mutua and Kibwana and even those supporting Ruto shouldn't be doing that while Kalonzo is there. These are unbelievable discussions. In the 21st century, you cannot be talking as if we are in 1867. In such a digital, era, where you are interconnected with your cousin who works in London. In real time, you can have a conversation, you can see him in real time, and people are still talking about watu wetu, mtu wetu. It's inexcusable, and it can never be that failed policies, that if Ukabila is bad in the 1970s, and we have said it, it cannot be that Ukabila will work from next year. So we must abandon this kind of nonsense and get serious about governance, and also really get serious about finding champion leaders, leaders that understand the constitution, leaders that respect people. people that are committed to service delivery and transformation of lives, and really leaders that that love and serve God. You know, so that it's not just leadership unto self and for self.
Okay.
Without that, we'll be in the same predicament, crying the same story 40 years from today.
All right. Now, there's something again that was raised yesterday by some Jungu somewhere, and he was wondering, he was comparing the headlines around the globe, in the UK, the US, whatever around the globe, against the news headlines in Kenya. And the global world was talking about all these resources that have been moved away, the presidents that are planting their countries. Back here at home, our headlines were talking about, Uhuru and Ruta snap talks, reconciliation, other stories and other stories. I mean, what does it tell you? And more than 48 hours down the line, the Kenyan media has not really stepped up and talked about this issue. What do you? Is it that we are not helpable? We cannot be helped?
No, I never believe in despair. I cannot say that Kenyans cannot be helped. That would be very cynical. That would be extremely pessimistic. Obviously, this points to the unholy alliance between the media and the government. It indicates that there is an issue again of conflict of interest, where a lot of media owners are themselves senior government people or affiliated to senior government people, so that there's a shyness there. Though NTV did do a very thorough job last night on reporting the same, I don't think that it's fair to say that we cannot be helped. I think that there are a few brilliant minds amongst us. I think there are a few Wangari Maathais, a few folks that have courage. I was last year with Dr. Ekuru Okot. I was quite surprised at how hard he was hitting the regime as a critic. Yeah. And I think that we have to just continue to demand more accountability, to demand more respecting of boundaries between arms of government, for example, legislature against executive, against judiciary, against spheres of influence. You cannot be a media owner, a legislator, with your brother as the head of state and what have you. A respecting of constitutional mandates and again boundaries, so that you have a country, not a fiefdom of sorts. This is really the message. And so I wouldn't say that things are too bad. I think that the fact that we can even report that the media should do better, that in itself says a lot. I think we have space here, Bitok, more than is the case in Rwanda today. I think that in Rwanda today, if you are critical in any way of the president, you risk arrest and incarceration if you even run against him. And that is extremely backward, and it's not our portion. And so we must, again, in the region and in the continent, Kenya must continue to shine, to take its rightful place as a business leader, and you had asked me earlier about the foundation from independence. Kenyans are extremely hardworking. So Kenya can be a bastion of hope. Kenya can be a country that demonstrates to the world that you can be very industrious, very hardworking, that you can be very self-reliant, that you can be innovative, M-Pesa and what have you, and that also that you can have quality leaders. The weakest link has been the leadership. But again, who puts these leaders in office? It is us. So again, the weakest link has been the debauchery, the thuggery, the theft, the greed, the gluttonous nature of the ruling elite. But the ruling elite have been propped up by the whole hoi polloi. So what this country needs absolutely is a political revolution. A political revolution, not necessarily a chaotic revolution for destruction of everything and mass riots and mass deaths and what have you. A ballot revolution where we are now finally serious. We come of age at 60 and say we can no longer do business as usual, where we elect thugs and expect. You can no longer plant sisal seeds and expect to harvest maize. That is really what must happen. As for exactly how that happens, I have some ideas. It starts with political party structure. We are yet to run purely ideological, massive political parties. I have any ideas on how that can be done. That purely now look at what the party hopes to achieve, what government should look like, as opposed to ethnic mobilization, ethnic census vehicles. That's what is on offer now. And I reiterate here, once again, that is not a workable formula.
But how do you reverse it? How do you reverse the foundations? Because it looks like the pillars that you're sitting on are already rigged against us. If you're talking about resources have already been rigged against us. Land is not in our hands anymore. Land was taken at independence. Resources is on the offshores.
It's about new voices. It's about new voices and new ideas and new thinking. It's not about giving up. It's about, if you look at, for example, the young former deputy governor Nairobi, Jonathan Mweke. If you look at the discussions he's having, there'll be arguments about should he be with the DP, how clean is a DP, and what have you. But if you can have new voices, new direction, new thinking, it can very much liberate this country. It's not about giving up. It is not about, despair. It's not about what they call dynasties and the age-old names for all the years, the so-called owners of Kenya. It is about new and emerging leadership, not just to come and revenge or do the same, but to have absolute and total change. It is possible. It's tough, yes, but it's absolutely possible, and we must inspire hope in the people so that the ballot means something. It's really a destruction of democracy when you hear all around people talking about, your vote really never matters. That's not true. Your vote always matters.
Deep state.
I even started the conversation on deep state. I'm one of the Kenyans that really began.
And you still want to tell us
I understand that. Yes, because you see, it's not all about deep state. That's just one aspect of the complex landscape that is political. That's why it's called political science. It's a science. It's rocket science. But it's not all about deep state. It is just an aspect of many, 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 many factors around what it takes to choose leaders, to allocate budgets, to run a country, to govern. And so you must not drive young people away from the ballot by saying it's all about the system. The system was overwhelmed in 2002. The system had a different candidate than the one that the people wanted. And so we also must be careful, Bitok, not to. I'm very, very big on advocating that we don't preach a false gospel. You must fight for something. You must stand for something and fight for something. And your courage and stand must be consistent. That is a mark of leadership.
All right. Okay. Yes. So now the curfew, another 30 days. I think they just need to do one declaration for 2 years.
No.
We bite slowly.
No,
what do you think?
I actually sent out a tweet day before yesterday, about 48 hours ago. And the last time I was here, I think we discussed the curfew, and I understand the rationale behind the curfew. However, I understand the rationale behind the curfew. You don't want infections to snowball. You don't want people, especially at night. We are a very fun-loving country where alcohol in Kenya is almost a way of life. People grow up. There's no socializing without alcohol, and so. If you have no curfew, people are out at night just drinking, socializing all over the place. It is very possible that you could have an explosion of infections. Having said that, I think now that the curfew has outlived its usefulness. This is my assessment as of 48 hours ago. Because we have been under curfew for a year and a half. I'm not you see, you don't justify a wrong by pointing to another wrong. You don't say, let us break the law because politicians are breaking the law. You don't say, let me beat my wife because my neighbor beats his wife. It is about time now we relook at the enforcement of curfew and probably localize it to where we see a problem. So that you have an area where there's an explosion, you can kind of lock and target that area. And then have the curfew as a time bound. For example, you say, let's have curfew for 30 days, then we evaluate. But this blanket curfew all across the country for more than a year and a half is no longer viable. It's not a good idea. I believe this will probably be the last 30-day curfew that we get to see. I believe that, and I do a lot of lobbying, I do advocacy. In my line of work, I am going to communicate this very clearly to those in charge, because we always do that. Decision making is not the preserve of the CSR. The CSRs look at many voices, experts, lobbyists, advocates, etc., on different things, and then make an informed decision after consultations with the president. I believe this will be the last 30-day blanket curfew nationwide that we see, and I believe that the time for this kind of curfew has actually run out. That time has actually run out.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's extremely detrimental to the economy.
Yes.
And people are excessively frustrated, excessively stressed, with this curfew situation. And there's also some abuse of the curfew. It's worked well in many areas. I can tell you in Machakos County, it's worked quite well. But in other places, you find that there has also been a bit of spike in crime. People are actually coming out to conduct criminal activity during curfew. There's been violations of curfew as well. There's been a lot of abuse against citizens by law enforcement. And so all those factors combined, let us lift the curfew for 60 days and then evaluate the infection rate and make a decision going forward. So that is actually my word. Let me be on record for that. Let us lift the curfew after this 30-day window. Let us lift it for 60 days. That is until the new year, so that November, December, there's no curfew. Then let us evaluate end of December as you go into the new year. That is my advice to Waziri Kagwe. Okay. I'll actually try and pay him a visit.
Lakini sasa, other countries, have you seen what's happening in the UK?
I know
people, the stadiums are full. Amen. People are focusing in other countries, people are focusing on vaccination. Why are we still closing people like sheep?
Actually, one of the problems is we have not had enough vaccines. BTOC, as you know, we have gotten vaccine donations. They come in batches of 200,000, 400,000, 300,000. We're a country of 50 million. So to answer your question, not only is there vaccine hesitancy, but we also just don't have enough vaccine. We also have not made any vaccine. So again, Africa cannot just, and Museveni said this, and I'm not his fan in one way or the other, but sometimes even a broken clock is correct twice a day. Museveni said we cannot just sit around, just be consumers and just gaze and wait. He said, like, during slave trade, there were African chiefs just sitting around watching the slave trade, not really doing anything, wearing monkey skins, just sitting around. You cannot just sit around and have zero leadership as a people, as a country, as a race, just to wait on Holland and Belgium and the US to donate vaccines, waiting on Mzee Biden to give us vaccines. We're just at the mercy of America. Since 1961 until 1981, famine 1984, Michael Jackson, until today, 2001, 2021, we're still waiting, sitting, gazing, waiting for them to feed our people in Northern Frontier District, NFD. That is just absolutely not right. And so I can see Mheshimiwa Mweke calling here. I hope he's tuned in. I'm
actually looking for the gentleman. I tried calling him yesterday.
Yeah, I can see him calling him there.
I met him somewhere.
Mheshimiwa, if you're tuned in, we are on air. We're discussing very important issues, and you better tune in yourself and listen. But again, we must have this spirit of participation, of contribution. Africans cannot just forever continue to be passers-by or spectators. What is our contribution to vaccine? Kenya is a little more advanced than many African countries, and so Kenya should have been a hub for distribution of vaccines to young countries like South Sudan that are themselves have a lot of crises. Rwanda is the size of just maybe Nairobi. So again, a country like Rwanda that is quite well organized, the land of 1,000 hills, should have been looking to Big Brother Kenya, that has never had civil war like they have, as a source for vaccine.
But
for
we are
vaccine
here.
made at in Cambry. But that's not really happening because we are preoccupied with personality cult politics.
And Kiangura is asking you a question here. Kiangura Kamusinga is asking you, but Ndolo,
yes,
not having enough vaccines isn't a reason when we lose 2 billion daily.
Well,
The paradox of Kenyan state.
I'm not saying that I'm not saying that not having a vaccine is good enough reason. I'm talking about prudent use of resources.
Okay.
I'm talking about the importance, I talk about this all the time, of ensuring that the 2 billion money, all right, is not lost daily, but is utilized for the betterment of the Kenyan state, for the betterment of Wanjiko. So again, the president was being very honest in his assessment there, because if you do the numbers, you realize it actually comes to 2 billion a day. But while he was being honest on that, what he needs is not also to be a whistleblower. You see, for me, I'm not holding any office. So I can come on radio, I can go on TV, I can go anywhere.
And whistle as much as you want.
And speak the truth.
Okay.
The president has instruments of power. He's a leader. So it's him to say, you know, I looked at intelligence and this and that, and there's this and this and this issue. So here's what I will tolerate as head of state, and here's what I will not. Okay. We will have a program to restructure this so that in 1 year, the 2 billion that has been lost will be reclaimed on this and this, and we're going to build hospitals. We're going to renovate Kenyatta National Hospital. We're going to build another Kenyatta National Hospital, so we have another level 5, so that we decongest, so that we have painkillers, so that we have surgery kits, so that we have ICUs. I mean, we just started the discussion on ICUs only last year, 2020, Bitok. We have counties, I think, in the whole of Western, for example, we had 2 ICU beds, I think in Aga Khan, Kisumu. And between that and Kisii, I have a friend of mine who wrote on Facebook how the uncle was being moved, and by the time they got to Kisii, they just missed the 1 ICU bed by 1 hour. We cannot continue living like that as human beings, as Africans.
Talking about the state of healthcare.
We must do more.
State of healthcare.
And that's just one aspect. That is state of healthcare. Yeah. Look at security. Okay? Look at security. I am told you can walk in this Kibera slum here for 1 hour before you see 1 uniformed police officer. So how do you keep the peace? How can you have security sector allocated so much money and you have no patrols? You have no... It's just the other day I worked on this initiative with my friend, my brother Okia Mtata, to ensure that 999 works. These are basics. That 99, if you pick the phone and make an emergency call, that you can get response. You know, by law, how it works in the US, for example, by law, you must get response within 2 minutes. That's the law. Response does not mean someone talking on the other line. It means if you call from any corner of the state, you will have a police officer in your compound, in this compound, in your radio station, or in your home. Within, the response time is about 2 minutes. It can be maybe 4-6 minutes. If you don't comply, then you don't get money from the allocation of resources. So we cannot run devolution as, you know, the hobby of governors and their wives, where you just take public money, you appoint your so-called first lady to oversee the public service board in the county, and just run at the whims of your kids who are driving Bentleys. That's comedy. That is tragic comedy. You must have centers of excellence in counties where you have a structure, you have your CECs who are on merit, you have the needs for the community, such simple things like, I talked about that the last time, extension officers in places like Kitale where you're growing maize, where things like armyworms are a big problem. You must have extension officers that come with solutions, that spray I mean, these are just, if you cannot do that in the 21st century, when people are going to the moon now for tourism, then what are you really doing? Then how can you vaccinate? If you cannot do armyworms, how can you vaccinate human beings?
How can you do vaccination?
Yeah. And if you're not vaccinating, then you have no confidence to remove things like curfew. It's really the lazy approach to governance. Because then the population cannot achieve that safety, that herd immunity, because you're also just kind of a whistleblower and a noisemaker, even though you're the waziri or the president. You're also just saying, you know, you're lamenting that I also don't have enough vaccines. I'm waiting for vaccines from New Zealand. But that's not the way. That's not leadership.
All right.
That's not leadership.
Okay. Just guys on YouTube. Mauka Dante says walai Pandora box. Utaseka ni kwa muda sa tuned in for morning. Show good to see you. Kutaseka ni kwa muda ama kweli. Kutaseka ni kwa mrefu Kenya hizi kwa muda. Yeah. Kwa muda mrefu. Ongeza pale mwisho kutaseka ni kwa muda mrefu. Njue Njagi asema salams Benji and GB please ask Benji Bado is still stuck at curfews. Are they way to go? Aya. Gimalielo Kumo says good morning GB, good morning to you. Peter's router, it's more than just a client number Benji. Yeah, it's more than just a client number. It's money that has moved of the country. Kutasaka Novamda says GB, did you just say helpable? I was trying to find a word. Now I found helpable. Are we helpable? Abu Zene Brand, morning Bitok, good job Benji. NDOLO didn't know he's such eloquent. Asante sana. Bed Cam says what's our vaccination rate? Less than 5%. The likes of UK have achieved more than 80%. Okay. Even ndio hali ilivyo. Wala YouTube nasikia wangona mwongea. Let me see. Agutwa God says, so sad no African countries even tried to do research on COVID. WHO just awarded and funded a Berlin a research center for emergencies. This is a result of how Germany was involved in the COVID-19 fight. Mora Kladesh says, Benji, you say you're...
Can I respond quickly to Agwok?
Okay.
The one you just read, and then you go to Mora.
No problem.
You know, we cannot continue to find it acceptable, my brother, that, you know, part of the problem with lack of research and what have you is, you know, that if funds were allocated, for example, from Germany, you know, where we have donor partners, and the fund was allocated for vaccine R&D, research and development, you know very well that in no time at all, with the climate the way it is, you'd have saved funds building houses in Runda. I just must say that this kind of evil approach to governance and attitude towards self-service only, you know, where again you have funds for a vaccine for the country, and then you have diverted all of those funds now to build your girlfriend a house, to buy yourself a helicopter. You know, this kind of thing is so prevalent in Africa, and it just cannot be accepted anymore. I think people are getting tired, and they must. And it is the reason, again, why we have all the lethargy, because we have even now the reputation internationally that, yes, give these guys the money for this and that. You know very well it will end up in accounts in Switzerland. And I just wanted to say that that's not acceptable. Go ahead and read Mora's.
All right. Mora says, Benchi, you say you're pro-Wanjiku, but you're told in your confession about status of Kibra security. Be honest, I don't know what she means. Caleb Korir, I support curfew extension. It has subdued mugging and shoplifting, which is being experienced due to high unemployment due to job loss. Okay. Robert Sweater, all said and done, the leadership of this country is in the hands of those who made a choice. I think we have to agree to address how we make these choices of leadership at all levels. This is where we should start from. Choices have consequences.
Mora needs to understand that if I was not pro-Wanjiku, I would not use this platform and this space to advocate for the welfare of Wanjiku by pointing out the obvious, that we don't have enough security in the slum. I don't live in the slum. So for me to point that out is for the benefit of the resident of the slum. And if I was a selfish leader, then I would be focused more on where I live than where Wanjiku lives. And so Mora is a little misguided, but she's in class. Hapana lala kwa darasa, be present, you learn a lot on the tackle. Next comment.
Etsi Kemba says we lose 2 billion daily to the client 13173. Robert Saida, we make silly choices and keep on complaining after every cycle of elections. Martini Binod, independence was not achieved. It was managed, and the manager was the client 13173 that was appointed the CEO. Right now, we are facing another round. Of colonialism using death and conservation, all targeting land and resources underneath. Okay. Cleveland Otieno says, great conversation. Asante sana, Cleveland. Good to see you this morning. Haya, mambo ndio hivyo, yale alivyo. Pia unaweza piga simu, nambari ni 0779-800-010 o 779-800-010. Bunge la Mwananchi o 779-800-010. Haya, basi habari ndio hiyo wangwana. Twitter naona kuna maneno pale kidogo, lakini haya sawa, tunasonga. Mambo yako ya Amerika ndugu yangu.
It's a good topic, a very good one.
Ulifikaje Amerika?
Sometimes around in the mid-90s. It's such a good question.
Mid-90s?
Yeah, in the mid-90s. I'm one of those guys who went to school very young, so that by age 17 I was done with Form 4. And the reason is my sisters and I had high aptitude. We were able to read and write early, so I think we skipped pre-primary, and I was always one of the youngest in my class. And after finishing Form 4, this is really in the throes of the Moi, for lack of a better word, kleptocracy. As a young man, I just felt that, having worked a little bit, having gone to school, how you're so young and green when you're young, when you're a teenager, you don't really know what you want to do. So first I went to engineering school, and I was not really good in math. So I realized early on, and I thank God for that I was really wasting a lot of time. And so I tried to see what I wanted to do. IT was coming up. That's around sometime in 1993. And I remember talking to my lecturer. For me, Bitok, I'm very good at socializing and talking to really anybody on earth. And I remember talking to my lecturer, and who said, you should look at the IT segment, but you're more of a marketer person, so go in that line, etc. And so I went and enrolled and did some programming in those days, etc. But at the same time, also made the decision to try and seek greener pastures abroad. It was the best decision I ever made. It opens your eyes in an unbelievable way. You're young, you're impressionable. America, I don't know how many of the listeners have been or have relatives there. It's really the land of the possible. It's everything is absolutely within reach. If you go to find a contract, for example, for FedEx to do transport and what have you, Bitok, they don't really care who your father is. They don't care about your name. They can hardly even say the name Bitok. You just, yes, there's issues like racism, etc. and what have you, especially where I lived in the South. But it's nothing compared to the kind of oppression that you still have in Africa today. And because, I was now exposed to, you can imagine under the Bill Clinton presidency, record employment, unemployment at 4%. Unemployment in Kenya today is something like 60%. More than one in every other Kenyan you meet is unemployed or underemployed. And so it was one of the best decisions I ever made. And at some point, 10, 11, 12 years down the line, I'm a firstborn in my family, my brother. And I realized, if I didn't make the decision to come home, then I would never come back home. And so I also advocate, and I tell this to people all the time. I have a lot of friends there, a lot of my former schoolmates and, brethren there, that at the end of the day, you must come back home and add value. Now, a lot of them don't agree with that sentiment because it's become really so tough. Things are really, really, really tough in this country. We are a country also that does not embrace new voices and change and what have you. But I must tell you that the two defining things, Bitok, that I did in my life was my attending St. Mary's School and also my going out there to the States to seek an education.
You went to St. Mary's?
Yeah, my St. Mary's alumni. In fact, the picture that you used is me in uniform just 2 years ago doing alumni. In fact, I sit on the alumni.
You and Uru are in the same WhatsApp group.
In a sense, yes. but that's why I'm very invested in St. Mary's is such a great school in so many ways to this day, and it was even better back then. I'm heavily invested in casting the school as the center of excellence that it is. It's not right for people to think that the school is only for spoiled brats, that anybody that went there is a crazy person. Look at all of the guys that school has produced. I remember going to get my papers sometime in 2011. I was going to work for the vice president then as advisor, so I had to get my papers, etc. And so I go there, and then they tell me, Mheshimiwa Uhuru was just here yesterday, and he's himself running for president. And we had this long conversation with the librarian, who of course knew me as a small boy. She had been there for a long time. And she said, St. Mary's is so consequential. A Saints C student is the equivalent of an Alliance A in terms of impact reach in the world. If you look at the Jeffs, the who, the what, and it's because the approach that school took was, first of all, to build your self-confidence, to expand your horizons in your mind, outside of just books and papers and passing exams. Interaction. You can imagine I have grown my whole life not knowing that, or rather knowing that my Irish headmaster, my Goan teacher of English, Sarabdeep Rayat, my deskmate, my other Russian friend Okitoi, that these are just brothers, only to get out in the world sometimes and then realize that in the rural setting, for example, you are only accustomed to being with people of your community. Are you understanding? And so when you come out to the metropolis, then you do business, you want to know which tribe is that guy. When you bring a girl home, they say, "Uyu msichana ni kabila gani?" So I didn't ever know or understand that. I mean, I grew up eating roti. So I liked chili, spicy, with my...
What is roti, one?
Asian food, Indian food. And so it gives you...
What is Antimary's food? What is roti?
So it gives you the fabric, the ability to interact and appreciate everyone and have a worldview that in itself has music, research, sports. We had and still I go and look at how the facilities are even now. The labs are, I believe, the best in the country. Just the laboratories, the chemistry laboratory, the equipment, the what have you. And so I really thank God for that experience. And if I had a son today, for sure he'd be at St. Mary's.
Okay.
And there are many other much more expensive schools. This one is really, in my opinion, value for money. And so a lot of what you see me do BeTalk today, the biggest influences is my schooling and my life in the States. Those really shaped how my worldview, how I see injustice, how voiceless the poor are in Kenya, for example. I mean, you're literally so disrespected at every turn. And the poor are the majority. The poor despise their own fellow poor. So just to give you an example, if you're a hawker in Nairobi, a police constable who lives in a mabati house can beat you to death, maskini kupiga maskini mwenzake. This is how, you have no rights, you have no access to justice, you have no lawyer, you are trapped in a cycle that is just so unbelievable. Whereas, I remember when I bought my first car, upon coming back home, a Prado, it took me a while to get my license plate. So I get stopped by a police officer because I don't have number plates. Of course, I have all the papers, etc. And the first thing I noticed is just on the traffic stop. It's first salute, jambo mheshimiwa, kwa nini namba yako, gari yako haina number plate. So just the approach. Or mheshimiwa, kwa nini gari nakimbia sana? And I say, I'm in a hurry, I'm rushing to a
Kama
meeting
gari ni mpya wewe ni mheshimiwa.
In Eldoret. Kama gari ni mpya na gari ni nzuri. Even the way they talk to you. You just come to realize later that police are brutal. Just after now living in society, you come to realize that police are perceived as enemies. Whereas I've always known the police are such nice people. They will escort you, to your home and protect you. And that's the thing. And so then you realize that for the poor, for the Juakali artisan, life is a painful existence. And this is what we must change so that we can build a republic where many, many, many more have access to opportunity, where you can get a job in the county government or in an organization without being the son of anybody. I worked for Chris Kirubi, by the way, and it was just on a very casual meeting, through a friend of mine, and I was not really big in the media that time. And he didn't ask me who my father was or what was. Of course, you can just tell, oh, this guy is from the States, etc. And I wasn't really looking for a job. I was just looking to settle in the country. And he's like, oh, I have a radio station. He blocked all his calls. We walked across from his office to Capitol. And right there, he just instructed, give this guy a contract, a decent contract. And I signed it. No interview, no nothing. How wonderful a country that would be, Bitok, if any young, energetic, budding, youth with ideas, with enthusiasm,
be given an opportunity.
Be given an opportunity without thinking you have to bribe, without thinking you have to have a godfather. That's the Kenya we want. And so for me, given the experiences that I've had in my life, it hurts so much to see the kind of stuff young people today, because I try to be very accessible to young people, to see what they go through, the kind of hopelessness, to know that we live in a country, and I like talking about the things that nobody wants to talk about, where a young girl, 4th year in university, has the lecturer solicit for sex. Or if she goes to a media house, then they can give you the job, but you should sleep with the MD. What kind of country is that, Bitok? Why should we live in a country like that? Because if you want the girl, and you are a big guy with money, if you tune her, if you talk to her, you'll still have her anyway. So why have a job as a precondition to be with me? That kind of thing that happens in this country is so backward and is really not the way for us to go. And this can be changed a lot by empowerment, by creating an enabling environment, by having an environment where, Bitok, you don't have a young, innovative youth come up with a product and then KRA attacks them. Or the enforcement agencies penalize them. They say you can't fly this because you need a license, you need this, you need that, you need to pay. They give you so many conditions that it dissuades you from coming up with anything. So that it is more, it is better for your state of mental health. That you don't come up with anything, but you sit and chew mugoka the whole day. I think our leaders pay a lot of lip service, but we need absolute and total commitment to Wanjiko. It's not just, shouldn't be a campaign slogan. It shouldn't be like a talking point or something fashionable to say. We must have the focus now. And I believe this is where people like the DP are picking from. It is from conversations we've had as activists. I've been in Kenya 14 years now. I can tell you, if you go and look at my footage from 2009, 2008, when I first started going on the record, Bitok, I am very, very, very categorical and clear that Kenya and Kenyanness and the state must not continue to exist for the simple reason or for the simple purpose of serving a few individuals at the expense of the whole nation. No. Kenya must be a country, and that's why I always advise, and I'm big on social media, the president. A lot of the things that he's doing, I always say, Your Excellency, just read it's a really good constitution. Read the constitution, Article 10, its ideals, Chapter 6. If you could be guided by this constitution, as any leader, a governor, an MP even, a senator, a president, you would be in very good standing just by following the ideals on Article 10, on the defined roles. The Constitution doesn't define the presidency as a place to go and, factor in unaudited funds for you to give your cronies and buy helicopters. No. The Constitution is very clear on the role of the public service, on the role, on how devolution should work. It doesn't say that take money to counties for the money to be looted. No. And so if we just follow the Constitution, and we started this show with a prayer, where would the problem be?
Nowhere.
But now we do everything opposite. Then complain when things don't work.
If we only follow the 10 Commandments, we could be good. Anyway.
And we're a religious country.
So you not told us what happened to you in America. Why are you back?
I'm back because this is home.
Okay.
Oh, I just made the decision to come back. And one thing I've learned is I've done very well on many fronts. That's why I'm sitting on this show today. One thing I've learned also, my brother, is, when you're in public life, you'll hear all manner of things.
Yeah.
You also, my particular approach does elicit a lot of jealousy, nothing really. You just hear things, my brother who was here, was deported. And deportation is not a simple thing, as he explained. You live in a T-shirt. You live in a T-shirt after so many years. And so I really thank God for everything that I did there. I moved back here actually with my everything, including my car that I drove on these streets for many, for a few years. A nice BMW. Life is for the living. I'm a believer of that. Life is for the living. And I did many things. I had a lot of experience, corporate experience. I worked for different companies, got some education, came back, made my contribution, went back to school, I gave the valedictorian speech at the University of Northampton in London just a year before last. And they didn't give me that role because of my father's name. It was something where we were asked, you guys submit, and we did, and all my classmates seemed to think that I'd be picked, and indeed I was. And so I think my point is that understand what it is to have good fortunes, and then ask yourself, what are they for? You see, my experience out there, Bitok, is just not for my own self-aggrandizement or for my own enjoyment. It is also for use in the village. It is for whatever I gain, I must uplift. As we speak now in my village, there's a young lab technician that's trying to get to England to do work. He's a young guy, born 1992. And I'm not looking for kura or anything, but he sought me out. And I'm helping with that process. So I'm in constant touch with a cousin of mine that lives there, and we're doing the whole procedure just to help one Kenyan get to the next level and he'll realize his dream. And so, again, you will hear all manner. We're still a society that is, quite backward in thinking. They say, oh, does he have a wife? Or you had Levi talk about that here the other day. Huyu ni mtoto wa waziri. So Kones was not that waziri. And just based on that, they try to put you in a box. But you know yourself. You know yourself. You know what you're made of. You know where you've come from. You know where you're going. No person on Twitter or on any tabloid or on anything is going to define my journey, my background, or my future. I know what I'm doing. I know how I've gotten to where I am. And you can never lose sight of that if you know your identity. So if I don't, for example, support Mheshimiwa Raila, then I have a bunch of Kenyans who think I'm a very bad guy. That can change tomorrow if I support Mheshimiwa Raila. If I don't support Mheshimiwa Ruto, then a bunch of fellows keep writing their things. Ndolo works for Raila. He's paid to abuse Ruto. Then if I change tomorrow and I'm in Hustler Nation, then, so it's a very, our people are gullible. Our people are so impressionable. But again, I say it is on you, the leader. And leadership, Bitok, is not an office. You are a leader. By the way, I am a graduate of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. In fact, I was second in the state of Georgia. So I'm trained in TV communications and radio. And I must tell you, you're very good at radio.
Really?
You're very good at radio. You have the right approach, the right voice, the right energy, and what have you. So you don't need anyone to pigeonhole you because they are not good at radio, or because they say your father stole. There's all this what you call conjecture.
My father was eating reggae when other people were stealing.
But you see, that makes him a good man. But you see, that makes him a good man.
Yeah.
Because
so there's nobody who can accuse me of,
But you see, we have also glorified stealing so much to where, we've glorified stealing to where people don't also realize that when you're stealing this kind of state largesse and feeding it to your kids and your kids' kids, then in a sense, you're also putting poison down generations. Because, how do you steal money meant to buy vaccine? and build
Kemsa.
flats and take your kids to school using that money and KEMSA and what have you, billions of shillings, and then expect there not to be a consequence. So ultimately, your grandkids all become drug addicts and what have you. I think we must have these discussions and we must be very clear-minded and clear-eyed on what we want to do. And not just fall for any, I saw somewhere written the other day, Bitok, barking, any stray dog will bark even at a landlord, and so you must have a sense of purpose and a sense of direction. And for me, once again, I am very fortunate to have had the wonderful experience of learning the things that I learned in the US. I really do thank God for that. And I have friends who have been deported. We don't condemn them. It's a very tough thing. A lot of them have picked themselves up and moved forward. I don't want to say their names on air. They know themselves. They know themselves. It's a traumatizing thing. And I thank God that I was never part of that kind of thing. Just recently, I invited the sitting American ambassador out to lunch because, I'm very active. And very loud. So, it's not that they're blind. They see the things I say. They see the things I do. And he obliged. And we sat there and had discussions. It's not even been a month. It's just a few weeks ago. And it's a great honor. It's a great honor. It's not by right that you can invite such an official or even have access to him. And he comes. And even today, I try to value add in many, many spaces, both publicly and privately. I really try to add. And those that know me or that have worked with me, they know what I'm about. They know I'll never be part of any scheme to defraud treasury, to steal public resources. I'm never part of that. I was very fortunate under the World Bank to serve the Auditor General for the last 5 years since 2015. Edward Ouko, we worked together closely and came up with very fantastic concepts, including the social accountability audit, where you take the audit process to mashinani. And in the meantime, doing so many other things. When I am privileged enough to meet His Excellency the President through the alumni committee, etc., the President knows Benji will never approach him and say, Mheshimiwa Rais, now I have a plan here, tunaweza fanya hii na hii tutoe pesa. They all know that I wouldn't do that. And so, there are those that will spend so much time throwing mud, throwing, wild allegations. You must be a leader strong enough to let them. Because many times when you throw mud, roses grow. It's manure.
You never know.
It's manure.
So then before I go back to the comments, I would want to ask you, where would you want to see this country? What would you want to see happening in this country? Where would you want to see this country?
It's such a good question. I'd like to see this country as a vibrant, upwardly moving, cohesive, united nation where merit stands for everything, where anyone from anywhere, from Marsabit, from Kapenguria, from Moyale, from Dujis, from Mtwapa, can rise to any position in this country. And because they are bound by the Constitution and a fear of God and a knowledge of what governance should be, they can provide the leadership and the environment to create a country that respects the rule of law, that has equity within its borders, that has plenty within its borders, not a country of just special interests and the billionaires that want to buy and install leaders for their own selfish purposes. That's the kind of country we'd like to see, a country where there's absolute rule of law because, for example, the law enforcement are well trained, they are respectful of citizenry, they're also respectful of the Constitution, they're paid on time, they're paid good salaries. It's not a place to go and mark time, it's not a place to go and perfect corruption. It's a career. It's a career like any advanced country's police force would look like. So that is the kind of country that we would like to see, not a country of ethnic bigots and tribal fiefdoms. That kind of continual divide and rule, that we learned from Zungu, that has no place in 21st century Africa. Yeah.
In terms of leadership, political leadership, for instance, because it looks like the more things change, the more they remain the same. From independence, we thought we had moved so far from the people that we thought were planning us at that point. But it looks like there seems to be a merry-go-round where Benji, when I'm done, I give it to Benji. Benji, when you're done, give it to my son. When I'm done, I give it to your son. And the son of... I mean... What do you think? Do you think there needs to be some level of some overhaul in our political class?
Yes, that's why I talked about a political revolution. There needs to be a total and complete overhaul. Again, it's interesting to me that President Kibaki, having been a vice president for 10 years, an insider, so to speak, and a VP to Moi, no less, this is a man that had the clearest idea on what to actually do to change the country. So as an insider, he could see what was wrong. And as leader of opposition, he often spoke about the need to rebuild the economy, the fact that Moi was really misruling and what he could do different. That's why I find Kibaki to be such an interesting figure, because he was part of the establishment, but at the same time, he was able to have an agenda that is completely anti-establishment, is completely, anti-Kanu, and to go against Kanuism and Moism and actually prevail and uplift a country that is broken and hopeless and bankrupt. And if you look at where Kibaki left this country in 2013, it's absolutely commendable. And as I'm there, as an old guy in his late 70s, we now need a school of thought that undoes Kanuism, that undoes Moism, that continues on the path, on the trajectory that Kibaki put this country on, of taking development to mashinani, CDF, of enhancing, and he could have done better, but you see, the enemy of better is best. The enemy of good is better. You put CDF, the next step then should be greater accountability of CDF. Not undoing CDF and then pillaging county resources, while when you go back to basics. And what Wanjiko must do is Wanjiko must get serious about looking for leaders, because Wanjiko has also been not innocent but responsible for electing crooks. So it is only the voter in Kipkabus that can say, now it is not enough for you to be a looter.
I'm tired.
And then to come and say that, okay, I'm a looter, but mimi nasimama na Raila. So patia mimi kura. This kind of backward, outdated, ancient thinking must come to an end, and it can begin. The beginning of the end can be 2022 and going forward. We can have in this country, if we put our minds to it, we can have a decade of real accountable politics. We have a provision in the Constitution for recall of MPs that needs subsidiary legislation to be operationalized. That hasn't happened. And also, Mwananchi have not asked for it to happen. We need to get serious on governance and governance structures. It's not enough to just have the occasional Boniface Mwangi, the occasional Ekuru Accord, the occasional BENJI NDOLO. We must move towards establishing a critical mass of youth that look beyond Mogoka, that look beyond handouts and pombe ya kwa vijana na vurugu, to say that for us to get jobs, okay, for us to get this country to work as it should, so that we are not all thinking of running away to London. I can see your audience, a lot of them are diaspora. They are all over the world, excelling and making money all over the world. That we must get the right kind of leaders. And that if the leaders come in and they betray us, within 2 years, then we can do the recall clause. We can activate the recall clause and recall those leaders and put in the leaders that we deserve. This has to be the conversation for 2022 and going forward for the next 10 years. So even for you who has very strong airwaves, I urge you, Bitok, to use your show, The Tackle, to tackle corruption, to tackle nepotism, to tackle crookedness, to tackle evil, and to call for accountability and clean hands governance. It doesn't matter if the person that is being castigated is your tribe or your political hero. ideals are no longer ideals because we're talking about, are not supposed to be suspended when it comes to Raila because Raila was detained.
Yeah.
So that we can talk about accountability, but then we don't want to talk about his track record.
Don't
in
touch
Kibra.
that one.
Yeah, don't touch this one
He was tear
because
gas.
he's old. He was no. We must get serious about cleaning up. And I think that's what Wanjigi is talking about, Fagia Wote. But how clean is he himself? And so this has to be this is the only way that we will actually have opportunity as ordinary Kenyans to build a country that we can be proud of for our children and our children's children. That's the only way. Because if we destroy this country, Bitok, and I often say this, we cannot expect that we can destroy this country, bankrupt it, run it to the ground, loot, and then once we've done that, then we can all move to Uganda. Uganda is a small landlocked country. Kenya is the only country we have. Kenya is the only country we have. Therefore, we must build this country and polish it and shine it
By all means.
until it looks like gold.
Okay.
That's our God-given role. I'm not saying this because anyone is paying me to say this. We must get out of the thinking that you can only do things for money. That why should I go to that? Kama silipwe allowance. Each one, teach one, and every patriotic citizen must learn to give back.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Obed Kim says, GB, let us talk of stewardship. Stewardship. I don't know what you mean.
He's talking about guiding the ship. Yeah. Stewardship. That you have a good steward. That leaders don't just come to rape and kill and destroy and pillage. That you have 3 trillion in budget resources. As we talked about here the last time when I was talking about the budget. It's not for you to eat that with your wife and kid. No, that is money meant to translate into healthier soils, better managed dams, cleaner environment and communities for ordinary Kenyans. It's not money for your vacations. And you're buying boats and yachts and helicopters and what have you. That is the height of anarchy. That is the ultimate betrayal of the Constitution. And by the way, unlike this job that you have here, you actually take an oath when you go to public office. Can you imagine? You didn't take an oath when you came here. When you work for City Hapo, you don't take an oath. But you take an oath and then you go and betray that oath. It is really unthinkable and unbelievable. The level of betrayal of even independence ideals that we've lived through almost 60 years, it's almost unforgivable.
Blessed Funk says, great show, GB. Benji, is it a taboo topic in Kenya to talk about state capture? Hashtag Pandora Papers.
I don't think it's taboo to talk about state capture. It might be a bit dangerous, but I think that in a free country, in a democracy, you must be able to talk about anything and everything. Why would it be wrong to talk about state capture? I think that anyone advocating against state capture is obviously advocating for democracy, and so that is a good thing. By the way, I sent out a message early this morning. If you notice, there are countries that are really not on this Pandora's list. And the answers, and then there are those that are expected to be there, for example, Russia. And the answer is very simple. In the US, which you talked about, any average plumber has money. Every average bus driver, NBA player, rapper, musician, wakona chapa. Just go and do research now and look at Beyonce's money or her husband Jay-Z's money. These are just rappers, some guy with shaggy hair. These are guys with more money than the DP. Clean money. And so, it's a land of opportunity. There's no restriction of opportunity. So why should you be hiding money then, if that's the kind of country you live in? Why should you be hiding money in secret foreign stash accounts? Read the Kroll report, by the way. I urge Kenyans, a lot of the young ones who haven't, to read the Kroll report.
We've called for in the implementation of the Kroll report.
Kroll. And also the Ndungu land report. These things are just, it's a shame that we're still having these discussions on things that we should have sorted out 30 years ago, and this country would really be on an upward trajectory if managed and run well. One of the former UK Prime Ministers said, and I quote, I can't remember his name, I think it was actually Gordon Brown, that if the United Kingdom was looted the way Africa has been looted, that the United Kingdom would cease to exist. That's a direct quote from a few years ago.
All right. Okay, Obed Kim. See Obed Kim. Okay. Obed Kim, yes, is a.
Let me also check my Twitter nione watu wanasema nini. Unajua pia yangu hapo is a media house.
Leo angwana wanasema nini
ya bwana.
Haya. Nataka naangalia watu wako. Obed Kim says they diverted funds from a 80.78 billion loan from the IMF to pay salaries. The state used shillings 18.16 billion from a 70.17 billion loan meant for housing, urban development and ICT to pay salaries. Wow, okay. Bedkim says data shows that allowances and salaries for staff in the office of president and that of his deputy have been growing quarter on a quarter and it shillings 5.43 billion in March from shillings 355.8 million a year earlier. Wow, okay. Kutazaka nakumuna nasema at Benji NDOLO 100% fact. Vision football from the UK says Benji is correct. Every Kenyan must become an advocate of good governance and accountability and demand proper leadership at all time and not be cheated by politicians, manifestos and promises.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Oh. Okay. Cleveland says great conversation. Cleveland says I think people need to read Not Yet Uhuru to really understand where we lost our soul as a country. Okay.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I'm actually, by the way, I'm reading currently Walking in Kenyatta Struggles by Duncan Ndegwa. Oh, it's got a lot of history. I've just started the book. It's a really good book. Duncan Ndegwa was the first secretary to the cabinet and ultimately also governor of the central bank appointed by President Jomo Kenyatta. He's still alive. Guys like these carry a lot of information, a wealth of information. They also have an understanding of what Kenya was then. By the way, the 60s were rife with opportunity. At the time, Kenya was also only a country of about 14 million people, you can imagine. Nairobi today is 5 million people, 90% of who live in abject poverty. And so reading these books can give you an idea of what the country was like and where we went wrong. Yeah, and what the vision was and where we went wrong.
Where we were thrown off the bus.
Yeah, where exactly where tumetupa mbao and how to fix that. And so I'm very keen on understanding that kind of stuff. And we must again get away from the mentality of, for me to do something, someone must pay me. So even for me to read, you see how people don't even read because they think sasa nikisoma kitabu itanisaidia na nini. It sharpens your intellectual acumen. It sharpens your database of information. You know, the human mind is created such that you can carry so much information and it helps you do critical analysis and thinking. Reading is not just for passing exams. This was one of the problems with 844 is that our people thought, to read a book is torture, you know, you must read only when you have to face an exam is punishment, you know, and then if you don't pass, then you're condemned to life. This is also why I support CBC. That's another discussion for another day. But we must, each one of us, have the right conversations and lift our voices to say, this is acceptable, this is not acceptable. If we do that, then the leaders find that they have nowhere to hide, and all they have to do is abide by the Constitution or else.
Okay. Haya. John Haemba says a good conversation and really inspiring. The guest is really informed and knowledgeable. God bless the tackle tuned in from the Art of UAE, Dubai. Asante sana.
Thank you very much, Dubai.
Sebastian Kibet, kijana sama, good morning, Mheshimiwa GB. Good morning to you. I go to Okot Joshua. Kenyan systems can work better, but those managing them are big problems. The adults I'm going through to get licensed to operate my simple diploma in electrical engineering made me give up. We can add value to our country, but the adults watch it.
Never give up, but Bitok, allow me to give a small challenge to your listeners, because I can see they're tuned in really from all around the world. I'm just curious, what position do they think, because a lot of them are saying, oh, very good, yeah, he understands this, he's very sure. What position do they think I should vie for? Let's hear from them.
Haya, wangona nauliza mnaona Benji, Benji kumbe anataka kura. On that point of kura. Kura inaanza jana. Wakikwambia watakupea.
Wakiniambia it will influence my thinking because we also have
to. You should run for president. You're in the same WhatsApp group in alumnus.
We must No, we must participate hapana. Mimi si
tunataka watu wa St. Very. Tunataka watu wa polling station. Tunataka watu wajalisomea polling station.
Wanasemanga our school was a part-time polling station. Kenya kuna mambo, but I'll just be curious to hear from our listeners in
so
Saudi
Benji
Arabia.
NDOLO,
Dubai everywhere.
Benji Ndolo would want to know.
I want to know.
Yes.
What do they think?
Benji would want to know.
Yeah.
Which seat do you think he should run for?
And be of great service to Kenyans.
Yes, and do you think he could serve with all the, you've listened to him, you've heard what he has to say.
I know I can legislate. I know what I know, but I'm just curious to what they think.
What they know.
Absolutely,
okay.
Yes.
Tell us what you know. Where do you think this guy would fit in? This man would be fit in. Asante sana. We're waiting for your feedback as we're heading to our tail end. Patrick Kilo says, the guy is speaking my mind. Good morning, GB. Eldoret Koloktin. Asante sana. Moragadesh says, Bitok, thanks for your efforts. Chapter 6 is not applicable to our Kenyan politicians due to godfathers. Very sad. Bobo Cheno, good morning. Good conversation from Benji. Nice show today. Asante sana. Rabi Lennox Lenola, baba wetu Mlanyasi, tuko pamoja. Asante sana. Thank you so much, my brother. Murimi Wakadhoni, anasema great man's right there. Good to see you. Thank you so much, Murimi. It's been a pleasure having you. Let me see. I think ilikuwa nishaona pale. Kwa hivyo Benji Ndolo anauliza, mnaona ni kitimoto gani anaweza kalia na wafanyia kazi wa Kenya kazi?
And you know why I'm asking that, bro? You know why I'm asking that?
Why are you asking that?
You know, how are we going to change this country when it is so obvious half of our elected leaders are incompetent? They don't even pretend. They come in these buses. Mtu anakuja na hiyo umbrella, na hiyo wave, So how do we expect to change anything when you do a simple show and people are like, wow, huyo kijana anakaa kwa kiti gani? There's one time I remember I was on a campaign somewhere and we went to door to door. And the old woman there, when we were having the discussion, she thought I was the one who was campaigning. Who was running, and I was not. And then she was just so confused. And then after the discussion, she said, now this is so funny. Wewe unaelewa mambo yote na hakuna kitu natafuta, na ule mwingine anatafuta tu. So even as we complain of how things are as Kenyans, the fact that we don't have the right people in office also tells you that we have a problem. And that's why you want it from the ground. Let people look and tell us, wewe unaweza kufanya hii ama usifanye hii. Wewe ende utafute ukue waziri ama ukue implementer, ukue PS, ukue nini. But we cannot expect to build a meaningful republic where kingpins just hoist their own ideas or subjects on the voter, so that someone has no competence, but because Kalonzo amesema sasa huyo ndio atakuwa, because Mheshimiwa Uhuru amesema na ni central, ama because Mudavadi amesema na ni western, that kind of thing. We, by participating, and public participation is a big part of the constitution, we are pushing for participatory democracy by having a Kenyan who has a voter's card, who has some dirhams that he sends to his family in Kenya, have a voice in Dubai and say, I think so-and-so, who has been in radio, or who has been in such and such position, I think he should be my MP in Nyali because of 1, 2, 3 reason. And it can actually work. That's why I'm giving them the challenge. It's not for entertainment.
John Jagi amesema mwamba governor Nairobi County kutasaka ni kwa muda, amesema head of EACC atafinywa huko. Tafadhali msipeleke kijana aenda huko afinywa mapema.
Actually, I can really do EACC. I've had that discussion before with Sakaja and others.
Unaweza finya watu EACC ama utafinywa?
Mbaya sana. Mimi ni mfinyaji odari.
Mfinyaji mkuu.
Yeah. and by the way, some of these discussions have happened. Even with my friend Jeff, there's a time he got a call from somewhere and he said, hey, look, they want to know, what do you want to do? And at the time, I really didn't want to do anything. But all those discussions are... It's just interesting to listen. If someone thinks, and as Jay Mwambia, that I can be of value to EACC, it's good to hear that. Someone else would think I'll be useless, and that's their right too.
Haya, amesema uombe EACC. Vision from the UK, Vision Total Football Kenya. So Benji, you should be an MP to start with, but the best position would be if you are appointed as the CS for Justice or head of anti-corruption. Okay.
Thank you.
That is from the UK. Caleb Kurese, Senate Machakos County nimpe yangu. Anasema anakupea kwa asubuhi mapema Senate ya Machakos.
By the way, I would really love Senate. I have my own reasons. I'd love Senate. It's a tough one because the territory is so wide. But one thing I would like to, and I'm not really asking for anything now, but one thing I want to assure the listeners, I know your show is very far and wide. So I'm one of these guys. I'm just a consistent guy. And then I have, what they call fire in the belly. Yani mimi nikiingia pale, anyone who has worked with me will tell you. And I do serious consultancies. Anyone who has worked with me will tell you, Yani mi nikiingia pale Bitok, I'm that guy, I'm like a bit of a workaholic. So I just like to work. You know, you invited me last evening and I said, you know, today, and by the way, I went to bed. We were chatting. I went to bed around 1 a.m. I'm quite fresh.
Na ndio wewe umefika.
Na ndio nimefika, hata from here naenda niko na mikutano the whole day mpaka saa 4 ya usiku.
Na kijana uchoke.
I'm a very tireless, and also I'm a fighter for something. You know, if I say sasa hapa pesa imekuwa ikibiwa na wananchi hawana maji, hii haikubaliki. Wachana na hii sarakasi kinamutoa mnaonanga. Me am a doer, my friend. Hiyo kitu either nifanye. If I was President Uhuru, let me tell you, and I've told him this before.
What do you have done as you finish? If you are Uhuru today,
you would have done today. In the cabinet meeting, I would have made it very clear. If I was President Uhuru today, si watu wanaiba pesa kwa it's common knowledge that there is theft in Kenya. That the cabinet is corrupt, that the government is corrupt, etc. Now, here's what I would do for President Uhuru. Either, and I am dead serious, either the corrupt CS in devolution or in defense, where they did all these things, remember the whole Inspector Kenei saga, either the CS leaves or stops, or me as the president, I leave Kenya. Either of the two. That's the ultimatum.
So right now you'll be out of Kenya.
Me, either yeye aende ama mi niende. That thing you can fix it within 1 calendar year. 1 calendar year is if President Uhuru cracked the whip, hakuna mtu angeiba pesa. And I think you saw how Magufuli operated. God rest his soul in peace. Me, I'm a doer in that way. Not so much dramatic. Not so much the drama, but the irreducible minimums. You cannot live in a country where you allocate public funds that you are borrowing through IMF at crazy rates. The public funds is received by a member of parliament, by a CS. They then reallocate the same to their wife, to their girlfriend, to their concubine, and begin building flats in Nanyuki. You cannot live in such a country. That can never be acceptable. You don't even need to reference the constitution to know that that is unacceptable. Yet that is what has been happening. You had a heist in 2013 documented where pesa ya security iliingia accounts za, I think it was KCB, others zingine walipshika KCBK. Within 6 days, that money had been banked and withdrawn in cash to the tune of billions of shillings. By Mutia Iringo's name was there, and so, and some commissioner of police there. I mean, you can't have that kind of brazen theft and have a country.
Okay.
Either wao waende ama mimi kama rais niende. Simple as that. Uhuru just could have done that. He could have just done that, but he didn't.
Okay. Haya. Sawa, wanaona watu wengi wanasema uenda anti-corruption. Sasa sijui utaenda pale nyumbani unoe panga ama unoe kisu ama unoe shoka. Basi alafu basi tutaona kama mwaka unaokuja uchaguzi ukifika, tukimaliza uchaguzi ukiwa na serikali mpya, basi labda unaweza kuwa nafasi ya kuweza kuwa anti-corruption Caesar, uende kukanyagana na wangwana wa kuvuruta pesa. Lakini anza na Panama kwanza. Tunakutuma Panama, mtulete kidogo, hata usilete mingi.
Can I share a very small nugget because I know we are closing up. Yeah. Let me share a very small nugget, and the reason why I wanted to get this feedback. Obviously, I'm a human being. I'm not a saint.
Yes.
You know, so I'm not trying to stand here and be deputy Jesus of any sort. But I was on a government project funded by Parliament, and you know, tabia zetu wa Kenya tu ni wale bitok. So part of the report writing and the research involved part of the team always running to Naivasha to swim, to enjoy, you know, basically to waste public resources. So one day I come into the office and I'm part of the research team, and I find out that a colleague had told another colleague, and you know, they say by their stripes you shall know them. I had never given them my idea on anything, but I'm a vocal person. A colleague told another colleague, you guys, when you're going to Naivasha, mnaenda mnakaa Naivasha 1 week, mnakaa kwa mahoteli. You know, why should I be in Naivasha with my colleagues? I'm not dating my colleagues. My colleague is not my wife. Why should I be in Naivasha in a nashipai for a week, then another week? So my colleague told this guy, who was my assistant, you guys, vile mnaendanga Naivasha mnajificha huko. The day BENJI NDOLO will know, this guy, he can't keep quiet, ata announce atalipua hii kitu. So you guys make sure Benji asiwahi jua hii kitu mnafanya Naivasha na mna expense your pesa. And I was very impressed for the person to say that, you know why? A lot of the projects that I've done, for me it is about, and I used to tell my boss this, it is about delivery. Okay. You know, when we're given a job to do BTalk, it is not for me to say, this is the budget for the job, so now let me do this. You know, there's one we're doing questionnaires to audit the constitution, so that we understand if people know the role of a senator, the role of a woman rep, you know, etc., the role of a county governor, etc. Now, what I told my team is once we were given the job by the Committee of Parliament under the Auditor General, what I told my team, number one, it is not my place now to go and employ my cousin, my tribesmates, etc. In fact, I doubt I employed even one tribesmate. That's the first thing. Okay? Of course, when you tell them that, they just stare at you like, "Oh, naishi Kenya gani?" Number two, we had the opportunity, okay, to say there's 14 million shillings here for this work. Now, here's what we'll do. Tutachukua our CBOs, community-based organizations, and different Kenyans, etc. I take them somewhere. They sit under a tree. They mark those questionnaires, right? Then they submit the same, which are fake, basically, and we pocket the money. But did we do that? No. We went as far as Loitoktok. Unaenda huko, unatembea huko, unaenda sokoni, unaongea na mama, unapata jina yake, unapata views zake. That is how I do projects. Me, I'll not be part of asham, part of nonsense. Mnapewa kazi ya kufanya, alafu mnaenda mnapata views yote mnapeleka, alafu AG anachukua anafanya report anapelekea rais. And whatever that you're doing there, in fact I told them, you know, Parliament, which has given us this job, is full of politicians. So at some point they will realize what we did was fake, and they will announce it on rooftops that you went and cooked. This is how scandals happen. And so you must have the patriotic spirit in you. I'm not saying you be perfect, you be an angel. You must say, hii ni pesa ya NYS, ya chakula, ya suppliers, ya hii na hii. When I worked as advisor to His Excellency Kalonzo, I can say this under oath. Any money due to suppliers, there is a day I paid people so fast, the PS was shocked. And I'm not praising myself. But I was like, why should a supplier like BTalk wait for 3 years? Especially and the money is here. It is for that supplier. Okay. So one day I just took a list and I took a whole day. And when I went to ask for more money, the boss said, "But you picked 2 million on Monday." And I said, "Sir, I paid all suppliers." You know his response to me? "Hey, you have brought private sector mentality to government." So be it. If that makes me a bad person, that nimelipa watu haraka, so be it. This is how we must have a revolutionized style of governance. We cannot continue to gaze at countries like Belgium, like Dubai, and say, wow, have you seen where Dubai imefika compared to where Dubai was in 1991? 1991, just the other day, 30 years ago. BTalk. Then you want to gaze at Dubai, but what about Uasin Gishu County? What about young, vibrant, smart guys like Buzeki? Why is Buzeki not a governor today? Is it because he has to kowtow to something? And yet he's a guy that is obviously brilliant. Bring him here and see. And so we cannot continue to expect good while doing evil. You must have, and President Uhuru talked about this in 2013, how I wish he followed in his own footsteps and his own words. He said, public service is defined by so much lethargy. He himself had been a minister, so he knew what he was talking about. He said, and I quote, I'm just quoting, my own office is the most corrupt office in this country. Did Uhuru say that? Or am I putting it on him? He did. My own office, in my own office, this office here, up and your corruption imekita mizizi kabisa. But then beyond saying that, then what do? You cannot have a situation where kazi ni kuvuja tu pesa, pilfering funds, consigning people to suffering, people supply county government of Machakos. When it's time to pay, you tell them the work they did was fake, yet when they were doing it, it was not fake. Then you keep the money, then you are trying to just do your own presidential campaign. No. You must give to Caesar what is Caesar's.
Okay.
You must pay to suppliers what is theirs. It is not a favor. So for me, any docket I've ever held at my low level,
hey,
na chapa kazi, absolutely.
kazi.
And let someone come and say, oh, we did this project, but Benji diverted. Let them come where I face them here tomorrow.
Haya,
sawa. They will not come.
Leta testimony kama kuna testimony ya Mheshimiwa Benji anayekuja ambaye amempa kiti ya kupigana na ufisadi, na pia wengine wamesema Senate, wengine wamesema bunge, basi naweza nitumia alafu I'll tackle him back. Okay, it's been a pleasure having you, Benji.
Thank you.
Wish you all the very best.
Thank you for having me.
And
I will always be, as long as God gives me breath, I will always be willing to tackle issues.
Asante.
To tackle issues head on. Tackling issues does not mean that I hate anyone. It does not mean that I'm disrespectful to the president. It does not mean that I'm arrogant. Tackling issues is basically handling issues and calling out a spade for what it is, not a big spoon. I will also always be a voice for the voiceless. Not everyone has the opportunity to go and sit on a TV station, to even have the language or the audacity to tackle an issue as it should be tackled. There are so many suffering, so many with no one to really speak on to their plight, to even give them any kind of thinking or direction. I'll always be the voice for the voiceless. I will always push for a just society. I will always be a good governance crusader. Whether I'm elected, whether I'm not elected, it is not my place to be elected to then go and do what I've advocated against. So, in so doing, I will do my part to make it a better country. Whether I'm in office, whether I'm not in office, whether I'm an MCA, whether I'm a former senator, whether I'm a what. That kind of thinking, hopefully, we will raise other Benjis, we will raise other BTalks. I commend you for having such a wonderful radio show, for having such a good skill. It is really what the Bible talks about. You are given our gifts. And how, you could be in the house, umelala tu, na your gift yako.
Kabisa.
So did you use your gift? Did you invest your gift, your talents, to multiply those talents? Or did you take your lamp and put it under the bed rather than shining the room? God bless you all.
Thank you, my brother. It's been a pleasure having you, and I believe that we can change this country. A conversation at that time.
Indeed.
And it was a pleasure to have you. Kibleting says, good insights. Asante sana. Quite better. It's great conversation there. GB Benji is a great guy. But Kenyan politics, for example, Jijapefu, we thought it will change dynamics of politics in parliament. But now he's a serious psychophant. Blessed Frank, I'm scared. If Benji NDOLO runs for any political seat, he speaks just like Uhuru before being elected. But look at how Uhuru was turned out. I give him CS justice. Robert Langat, hi guy Benji, man with humanity to our Kenyans. You are supposed to be appointed as CS. We have seen you can manage our constitution is. Vision from the UK says, Bitok, ask Benji out. Ask Benji out of the current presidential candidate. Who can we up in fighting corruption as Kenya is losing Kenya shillings 600 billion per year? Okay.
The answer would be none.
You'll be none. Okay. Amesema hakuna zero. Haya. Good to work out. Joshua says, with the security of tenure guaranteed in our current constitution, Kenya anti-corruption would be the best seat. Ama pale anti-corruption court. Haya. Asanteni sana. Thank you so much guys for tuning in. It's been a pleasure having you on the tackle. As usual, I tell you that without you, the tackle could never be. We are because of all of you. And we can change this country conversation at a time. In every corner you are in, you can speak something. You can say something about your nation and you can contribute to the running of this country. You can never underestimate the power of conversation and the power of media. Each help we pull this country ahead. It's been a pleasure having you. It's been the 5th of October, the State of the Nation edition, and it ends now. Bye bye and see you tomorrow on Siasa Wednesday.